I'm a designer and entrepreneur. I have worked for 25 years across a wide range of businesses. For 18 of those, I ran a lean, holacratic model design business called Schwa Design. Our smallest project team was 2 people. Other times, the project or the needs of the client called for 25 people. So we were nimble, we were flexible. We were lean before lean was even part of the design vernacular. So for a short while, I was in-house within a startup at IBM called Bluemix Garage. I ran workshops for UBS, Deloitte, many others across the globe. And for a few years, I was the first design operations hire inside Twitter product team. Design operations didn't really exist when I started. That was only 2.5 years ago. I co-wrote my job description, which was amazing. And then I achieved a lot of the things that are now commonly referred to as design operations. Since June, I'm back to being independent and focusing on my second business called Startnership, which is a portmanteau of startup partnership. I'm consulting with Sequoia Design Lab in the VC world. I'm also helping design operations for Sequoia at some of their businesses, and also a new team inside Salesforce that's getting their design operations in place before they scale, which is a really good idea. By a quick show of hands, who here works with people? Correct. You're all correct. Now's a really good time to be more human. And I really love the theme of this summit. I'm really happy that we're all talking about various ways of addressing human needs. Being human and understanding how to work at the layer of people persists. To unpack that thesis, I'm going to start with looking at signals from society and culture, then from a few experiences working at the intersection of design and technology in Silicon Valley and on both coasts of the US. I think we'll have a couple minutes at the end for Q&A. All the resources I'm sharing with you today are at mynameisjoshsilverman.com/GIF. Okay. I claim that the world has reached peak asshole leader and peak patriarchy. I think it's time to move on from that. One of my heroes, Debbie Millman, people make their own brands now, not for a profit or shareholder value, but for a mission and a movement. Thankfully, social media has helped a lot with that. One of the recent and powerful examples of this social change innovation created in response to the US election of 2016 is the pussy hat. Pussy hats have become a symbol of human rights and a sign of what Debbie's quote suggests. It's very visible for people to organize, connect, and use social media and hashtags to share, in this case, open source patterns for knitting. The Pussy Hat Project stems from the actual words spoken by Trump and turns them around. 3 women were inspired to share the design for pink hats in advance of the marches in January of last year, the women's rights marches. The name was also chosen, a pussy hat, to destigmatize the word pussy and transform it, highlighting the cat ears in the hat design. So this one project raises awareness, advances human rights, and promotes dialogue and empowerment through art, education, and craft. And in a broader context, it's a great result of the current US administration. This increased visibility of resistance movements, including Occupy Wall Street and Black Lives Matter, and many more. So it inspires me very much that people are getting up off of their couches and doing something about the world today, especially if it's knitting and taking action. This is actually the democratization of effective branding. So the ability to take an idea into reality starts with one person or a small group of people, which spreads, thinking about that Margaret Mead quote, until dozens, hundreds, and thousands of people are ambassadors of an idea, a movement, and a brand. Indeed, here's a shot from a women's march showing a sea of pussy hats. This powerful bottom-up branding is made by people. In the professional practice of design, so much has changed since I started. Anyone under 30 know what this is? Yeah? Transfer? Yeah. This is how I used to have to order type when I wanted a new typeface when I started. Okay, nodding heads. Good, good. This was, I don't know, 1988, 89 when I started professionally practicing design. To get a new typeface for the younger folks in the room, you had to go to the local art store, order it, wait 2 weeks, and then it would be shipped, and you'd have to go pick it up to then burnish it with a burnisher, which I still have, to try and mock up a new typeface in a layout. Even in that era, there were 3 stages to develop a layout. Iteration was part of the process back then. I've been practicing design so long, software used to come in boxes. We used to joke that this was all just RageMaker when it would crash instead of PageMaker. This predates Quark, which predates InDesign, which predates Sketch. That's, do the math, I'm old. Software has changed a lot. Tools have changed a lot. But working with people has not. On the left, a shot from IBM in the 60s. On the right, me leading a workshop at UBS in Zurich. So while each of us pays different amount of attention to historical tools or modern prototyping tools or to system architecture, whether a feature is shipped top-down or bottom-up, if a project is linear, sequential, waterfall, if it's social, if it's agile, if it's collaborative, or if we're more invested in recent technologies like machine learning, AI, all the stuff we've seen today. Nobody's mentioned the word blockchain yet? Program next year. Regardless of your product's service or focus, you can understand a lot about a business by understanding its people. So here's the money shot. Here's how to define working inside the people layer. If you're a solo practitioner and your daily practice doesn't include other people, it turns out you don't exist in a vacuum. Put another way, how did you understand the feedback from your last critique session? Or how does your engineer partner, the one you've never met, respond under stress? What's going on in your co-founder's personal life right now? Did you get back to the photographer because you really liked their personality? So let's define the people layer. It's the deepest, most complex layer of any organization, not just in tech companies. It's broader than content and deeper than purpose. It's the layer of interaction that persists beyond changes in aesthetics, UX, UI, operating systems, devices, code stacks, tools, and trends. It's independent of any single individual, and by default, everyone you work with is involved. So what follows, the main part of my talk, are 15 lenses through which you can look more carefully at the activities at the people layer in your organization and with your teams. And once you start to look at this, you'll be a more empathic person, a better collaborator, and you will learn skills that ground you, which can be skills that persist. So let's define the 15 lenses. Design is never done, ever. There'll always be a new tool to learn, a new problem to solve, a new typeface, even a new color. I couldn't come to the GIF conference without using a GIF, come on. This is the only GIF. If you're in design, you have to love working with people. Feedback is a gift. What's your company's culture of giving and receiving feedback? Not just for the design team. Is it published? Is it visible? To me, feedback is a gift. And it starts with soliciting the request for feedback. Nothing's worse than saying, I have some feedback for you if you didn't ask for it. So it starts with the solicitor of feedback. That sets the expectations. At Twitter, we had a Mad Lib style preamble during our weekly product design crits. The Mad Lib was, the purpose of this crit is to X. I'm showing Y stage of work because here are the goals and user problems. And everyone that brought something to crit had to fill out that preamble and set the expectations for the critique before the critique started. And so the solicitor is asking for feedback about something specific. So when you frame feedback with an open question, the feedback is easy to act on. Open questions like, how might we? What I'm trying to figure out is, what I'd specifically like to get feedback on is. So as the solicitor of feedback, you don't have to dread that once you frame it properly. As the provider of feedback, make it about the work and not the person. So if you lead with questions such as, how might you adjust X if Y were a concern, or help me understand, or have you considered, those are opening questions, and it makes it about the work and not the person. Opinions, I don't like this. Opinions are not actionable. Opinions are driven totally by ego. And the last one on the right, a shit sandwich, is thus. It's good, bad, and good. The headline's great. I don't like that typeface, but good job with the new content. That's a shit sandwich. We don't want to share those. We don't want to eat those. We don't want to receive those either. So say no to shit sandwiches. If you've ever heard someone use the term on brand, is there a clear example of that you can point to? Or is it an excuse for putting your personal opinion in there somehow? Are there other acronyms, or are there acronyms or terms that are new to you, or might be new to a new hire, which you could pause for and ask a definition of? And if that happens frequently, build a glossary and share it and socialize it. Some of the most common mistakes are, of course, and obviously. What's obvious to you might not be obvious to someone else. Facilitation is a role. Earlier this year at a conference in Boston, Massachusetts, in the States, I learned about a study of group dynamics in meetings. It turns out that in a 6-person group, 3 people do 70% of the talking. 6 people, 3 of them do 70% of the talking. So the importance of facilitation should be obvious by that example. A good facilitator watches for inclusivity, ensuring that all voices are heard. I was once in a meeting where everyone was talking really loudly, and to get everyone else heard, the volume increased until one person in the room started using their sotto voce, their quiet voice. And that totally reset the group dynamics in the room, and we could hear what everyone was saying. Because design is never done, you must enjoy the process. Trust the process, but be sure to have a process and socialize it. Here are some examples of processes, process diagrams, from designfuckingthinking.tumblr.com. My friend Mark O'Brien started collecting examples of what design thinking looked like. You can see them all at designfuckingthinking.tumblr.com. I love that I'm glad to hear your laughter. I'm happy that he took a bunch of his samples that he saw and collected them all. Mine is up there from when I had my own business. So it doesn't really matter what you call it. It does begin with people. This is one of my faves. Just make sure your process is shared and understood. And you can iterate on it till the cows come home, but make sure that you publish it and share it. Chances are, different teams make decisions differently, and a working agreement will help. I love the Trello board that we learned about yesterday for the City of London. That kind of transparency is beautiful. Engineers might approach problems differently when they're in emergency mode. Data scientists might have a different structure for critique than you do. Content strategy might have a different brainstorming approach. Maybe a short course in design basics would help your engineer team speak the same language. Also, on this note, some decisions you make may have effects beyond the meeting, the week, the month, the quarter, even the company. In 2002, I went to a portfolio review session with a design organization back in Boston where I used to live. I met a gentleman there who had a really beautiful poster. The poster caught my eye. I asked him if he knew a thing or two about semiotics. We had a chat afterwards. That gentleman's name is Dave Bologna. Dave and I have been friends since then for 15 years or so. Dave left Boston area, moved to the Bay Area before I did. Dave ended up helping me get my job at Twitter because he was in-house at Twitter, and he helped make the case for me to be the first design operations person in there because of our working relationship back in my old business, Schwa Design. So it's really critical to be able to make decisions transparently and network. And you never know where your next job is going to come from. So don't make a shitty decision inside a meeting that's going to have ramifications past the meeting. Users are people. I don't really love the term user as much as it's standard in the design industry and the tech industry. There are many arguments for or against using it, but I do like the fact that it is about a design being used. The function of a design is about use. It's not art. It's to be used. It's to be consumed. It's easy to focus on tech. It's easy to focus on numbers. We might find ourselves chasing tech, even addicted to it, looking for the next thing that will increase daily active users or continue to help us make decisions based solely on metrics. But we've heard a few times in the last couple days, behind all the numbers, users are people. You have to balance qual and quant. Lori, the person who tweeted this, is actually here in the UK right now. It really is about humans working together. Okay, experiment time. You with me? Ready for a little experiment? I'm going to give you 1 moment. Everyone, you can close your eyes if you want. Please think about something positive or something negative. Just 1 moment. Okay. How many thought about something positive? Good. I love you all. How many think about something negative? It's okay. I do it too. Okay. For the few people who thought about negative things or were willing to admit it, when you thought about something that was negative, did you think about just one thing? No? Why? What happened?
A lot of things come in my mind together.
Yes, I agree. Anyone else think of something negative on this side of the room? What happened?
I'm driven with negativity, so.
Excellent.
But being, I think, sometimes hungry and maybe pessimistic and critical, I think also helps finding your environment and making things happen.
I think you're also Swiss-German, yes?
I work in Swiss Germany.
Okay. Don't know if that has anything to do with it. Sorry. My hypothesis for this experiment was that negativity multiplies. Negativity breeds negativity. So it's really easy to respond to negativity with more negativity, and that spirals outwards till the end of time. Design and entrepreneurship requires optimism, requires going from 0 to 1, requires that you hold on to that vision, that positive thing that doesn't exist yet, and you help make it happen. And also, optimism helps people see the good in themselves. You can be that mirror of possibility. The next point. Sell, don't tell. I once took a public speaking class, and this is what we were told. I think that's bullshit. Selling is about the features and the benefits. Telling, sorry, I got that wrong. Telling is about the features and the benefits. Selling is about what they can do for you. So the fastest car, the best checkout flow is nothing without selling it and talking about the benefits to the user. Putting your features in terms of the benefit to the customer or anything that shows empathy for the emotional situation of the experience of the customer is a measure of understanding and intelligence. A lot of businesses start out as one team, especially with everyone co-located. I think a lot of meetings are all about getting back to that togetherness. Once the company grows, there are probably separate content strategy, research, product, brand, sales, marketing, engineering teams, or however you need to configure. As teams increase in size, it becomes critical to look at how they collaborate across and in that liminal space between. This is a relationship map showing how cross-functional teams work inside the experience design practice at Autodesk. The author is Michael Polivka, and he shared his story at last fall's inaugural Design Ops Summit in New York. This is to show the complexity of one organization's dynamics. Michael mapped out the connections and allies and had a shared mindset that helped everyone succeed. When I was 23, I joined a local chapter of the oldest and largest design organization called AIGA. Its network was the ability for me to get some of my early projects, meet that gentleman Dave Bologna, and some of my heroes, including Debbie Millman. When I moved from Boston area to Rhode Island, I co-founded the Rhode Island chapter of AIGA, and volunteering my time for AIGA across the last 25 years has had a tenfold ROI. As I was relocating to San Francisco, I learned about a new nonprofit for LGBTQ entrepreneurs called Start Out, so I decided that I would volunteer my time with them, because a lot of entrepreneurs need design. So I started Design Entrepreneurs, which is a series of conversations about design, entrepreneurship, and LGBTQ experience. The LGBT community has always questioned the way things are, and our difference is one of our strategic advantages. So this is a shot from one of the lectures. On the left, Debbie Millman in the center, facilitating a conversation at School of Visual Arts in New York. On the right, me and Optimizely in San Francisco. We got some press. It was really fun, and I gave all my time to both of these organizations just because I believed that they needed to connect. I think we'll hear more about this later from Benjamin. Diversity is reality. Diversity takes many forms, but the key, look around you, is we live in a globally diverse environment. Trying to make it less so goes against nature. We have more in common with each other than not. 99.9% of everyone's DNA is the same. I'm going to move a little faster here. So email, Slack, DMs, HipChat, GChat, phone calls, texts, Hangout. You know what it's like to be in a state of flow only to be interrupted by a notification from one of those many channels. So if you don't know how you work best, here's a tool to help you by Cassie Robinson. She's actually a UK resident. It's a user manual for herself, how she likes to give and receive feedback, conditions she likes to work in, things she needs, things she loves. This is available as a template for you to use, and it's, again, you can link to it from my site. I'm going to skip this. OK, other resources for humans. Here, even more of my favorite resources for improving the people layer. Google researched 250 attributes of 180 teams at Google. It's called Project Aristotle. And what they found is who is on a team matters less than how the team members interact. The number one thing to, the number one indicator for a high-performing team is, anyone guess? Psychological safety, trust. Scoping a bit bigger is the Level Up framework for high-performing teams by Designer Fund. They surveyed 1,400 startups in Silicon Valley and elsewhere, and you can chart how you work various stages of growth on the columns, and things like culture, critique, giving and receiving feedback, personal space, physical space. You can use this rubric to chart how you level up and be able to help level up. A lovely side project by Philip Cohen in beta, calculating the cost of a meeting based on the attendees' hourly rates. A tool to optimize workflow in your calendars. A startup making software to help teams build healthy habits. And a couple of books, meetings. Everyone has meetings. Now you can design them. You can be intentional about how to pull a meeting together. Recently published from the fine folks at Basecamp, their third book, I think, about how they've been a calm company for the last 18 years. And a more intellectual book, Design When Everybody Designs, because we're getting there. Design has a seat at the table, of course, but now everyone wants to have a design practice. What happens when everyone designs? You can read about it. And lastly, none of this would matter if we don't have a growth mindset. I personally like to define as a growth mindset as being a lifelong beginner. I'm always learning. Carol Dweck coined the term. This is how she defines having a growth mindset. We are addicted to failure. We are obsessed with fail, fail, fail. But here's a secret. Failure is data. We can learn from failure. Once we do, we'll be better off. And Andreas talked about this yesterday. He rewards failure. This gentleman knew a thing or two about failure in 1844. So once you start solving for the people layer, improve how collaboration happens, and you optimize team and individual performance, everything else becomes achievable. We are at a critical point in society where fear and anxiety pervades, but nobody is born biased. There's so much work to do right now at the people layer. In Silicon Valley, Bo used to think that being too human was a weakness, too empathetic, too emotional, too vulnerable, too feminine. Now she wears the human badge as an honor. I love that Bo refers to it as a layer, and as I've argued here today, it's the base layer. Once you take care of people, then you can take care of product. Thank you very much.